Good day, sir. We are Group 2 and we are discussing Lesson 3, International Covenant Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, or ICECR. Up to Lesson 4, we're discussing Irish Jesus, and with my together, we are partner in Lesson 3, reporting with Romario de los Reyes. What is the purpose of ICCR? Is to provide the legal framework to protect and preserve the most basic economic and social cultural rights. So, including rights relating to the following. Number one, to work in just and favorable conditions. Two, to social protection to an adequate standard of living to the highest attainable standards of physical and mental health. Number five, to education and to enjoyment benefits of cultural freedom and scientific progress. Next is specific rights protected under ICESR. So we have 11 rights protected under ICCR. So A, rights to non-discrimination in the right to an effective remedy. So we have three discussion about this. One, each state party undertakes to take steps individually and through international assistance and cooperation, especially economic and political. Number two, the states parties undertakes to guarantee the right initiated in the present covenant will be exercised without discrimination of any kind, as race, color, sex, language, religion, and or other status. Number three, developing countries with due regard to human rights and their national economy may determine to what extent they would guarantee the economic rights recognized by covenant non-nationals. So, B, equal rights of men and women to the enjoyment of economic and social culture. So, the states party should ensure the equal rights of men and women to the enjoyment of all economic, social, and cultural rights set forth of present covenant by Article 2. In C, right to work. Right to work, the states party should recognize the right to work, such as the right of everyone to the opportunity to gain his or living by work, which he or she will chooses or accept, and will take appropriate steps. Number two, steps to be taken by state party to the present covenant to achieve the full realization of this right should include technical and vocational guidance training programs. And letter D, right to just and favorable conditions of work. States parties should recognize the right of everyone to the enjoyment of just and favorable conditions of work. And number one, remuneration which provide all workers as a minimum for wages and equal remuneration. B, decent living for themselves and their families. And number two, safe and healthy working condition. Number three, equal opportunity for everyone to be promoted his or her employment. Number four, and the last, rest, leisure, and reasonable limitation of working hours and periodic holidays with pay. Letter E, right of everyone to inform trade unions and join the states party should undertake to ensure. We have four discussion about that. One is the right of everyone to form trade unions and join the trade union of his or her choice. So means for the promotion and protection of his economic and social interests may be placed on the exercise of this right other than those prescribed by law, which is necessary in a democratic society in the interest of national security or public order. Number two, the right of trade unions to establish national federations or confederations, and the right of the latter to form or join international trade union organizations. Number three, the right of trade unions to function freely, subject to no limitation other than those prescribed by law, which necessarily is a democratic society in the interest of national security. Last, the four, the right to strike, provided that it is exercised in conformity with the laws of the particular country. Article 8. Last is the right to social security. The states party should recognize the right of everyone to social security, including social insurance. So that's all part of the report. The continue report by Romario de los Reyes.
Good day, everyone. I am Romario P. De Los Reyes Jr. So, I'm gonna continue the report of Roy. So, G, the protection of the family, mothers, children, and young persons. The widest possible protection and assistance should be accorded to the family, which is the natural and fundamental group unit of society. The special protection should be accorded to mothers during a reasonable period and after childbirth. Special measures of protection and assistance should be taken on behalf of all children and young persons without any discrimination for reasons of parentage or other conditions. H. Right to an adequate standard of living, including adequate food. The state parties shall recognize the right of everyone to an adequate standard of living for himself or herself and his and her family. Excuse me. The state parties recognizing the fundamental rights of everyone to be free from hunger. These are the methods to improve the production, conservation, and distribution of food by making full use of technical and scientific knowledge, by disseminating knowledge of the principles of nutrition, and by developing of reforming agrarian system in such a way to achieve the most efficient development and utilization of natural resources, and taking into account the problems of both food importing and food exporting countries to ensure an equitable distribution of world food supplies in relation to need. The next is the right to health. Excuse me. The state parties shall recognize the right of everyone to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. The state parties shall achieve the full realization of this right and shall include those necessary for the provision for the reduction of the stillbirth rate of infant mortality and for the healthy development of the child, the improvement of all aspects of environmental and industrial hygiene, the prevention, treatment, and control of endemic, occupational, and other disease, and the creation of conditions which would assure to all medical service and medical attention in the event of sickness. The right to education. The state party shall recognize the right of everyone to have an education. The state party shall recognize that with a view to achieving the full realization of this right, the primary education shall be compulsory and available free to all. Secondary education in its different forms, including technical and vocational secondary education, shall be made generally available and accessible to all by every appropriate means. Higher education shall be made equally accessible to all. Excuse me. Fundamental education shall be encouraged or intensified as far as possible for those persons who have not received or completed the whole period of their primary education. So, the development of a system of school at all levels shall be actively pursued. An adequately fellowship system shall be established, and the material conditions of teaching staff shall be continuously improved. State parties shall undertake to have the respect for the liberty of parents and, when applicable, to legal guardians to choose for their children's schools. So, the right to participate in cultural life. The state's parties shall recognize the right of everyone to take part in cultural life, to enjoy the benefit of scientific progress and its applications, to benefit from the protection of the moral and material interests resulting from any scientific, literary, or artistic production of which he is the author. Steps to be taken by states parties to achieve the full realization of these rights. We shall include those necessary for the conservation, the development, and the diffusion of science. So these state parties shall undertake to respect the freedom indispensable for scientific research and creative activity. The state parties shall recognize the benefits to be derived from the encouragement and development of an international contacts and cooperation in the scientific and cultural fields. Who oversee the state parties? Implementation of the ICESCR, or in short, the Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, or CESCR. It is the composed of dependent body of experts that review state parties' compliance with their obligations regarding economic, social, and cultural rights.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. So, Lesson 4, International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. So, what is the purpose of the ICERD? The ICERD, through state parties, sought to take action on eliminating racial discrimination in all its forms, including eradicating racial hatred and incitement to hatred, combating prejudice which lead to racial discrimination, and guaranteeing the enjoyment of civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights without discrimination on grounds of race, color, or national or ethnic origin. So, what is meant by racial discrimination under the ICERD? It shall mean any distinction, exclusion, restriction, or preference based on race, color, descent, or national or ethnic origin, which has the purpose or effect of nullifying or impairing the recognition, enjoyment, or exercise on an equal footing of human rights and fundamental freedoms in the political, economic, social, cultural, or any other field of public life. So, roles of state parties. Each state party undertakes to engage in no act or practice of racial discrimination against persons, groups of persons, or institutions, and to ensure that all public authorities and public institutions, national and local, shall act in conformity with this obligation. Each state party undertakes not to sponsor, defend, or support racial discrimination by any person or organization. Each, each state party shall take effective measures to review governmental, national, and local policies and to amend, rescind, or nullify any law and regulation which have the effect of creating or perpetuating racial discrimination wherever it exists. Each state party should prohibit and bring to an end by all appropriate means, including legislation as required by circumstances, racial discrimination by any person, group, or organization. Each state party undertakes to encourage, where appropriate, integrationist, multiracial organizations and movements and other means of eliminating barriers between races and to discourage anything which tends to strengthen racial division. State parties show, when the situation so warrant, take in the social, economic, cultural, and other fields special and concrete measures to ensure the adequate development and protection of certain racial groups or individuals for the purpose of guaranteeing them the full and equal enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedoms. State parties shall particularly condemn racial segregation and apartheid and undertake to prevent, prohibit, and eradicate all practices of this nature in territories under their jurisdiction. State parties shall assure to everyone within their jurisdiction effective protection and remedies through the competent national tribunals and other states institutions against any act of racial discrimination which violate his human rights and fundamental freedoms contrary to this convention, as well as the right to seek from such tribunals just and adequate reparation or satisfaction or any damage suffered as a result of such discrimination. States parties shall undertake to adopt immediate and effective measures, particularly in the fields of teaching, education, culture, and information, with a view to combating prejudice which lead to racial discrimination, and to promoting understanding, tolerance, and friendship among nations and racial or ethnical groups. Positive measures to eradicate discrimination. States shall declare an offense punishable by law all dissemination of ideas based on racial superiority or hatred, incitement to racial discrimination, as well as all acts of violence or incitement to such acts against any race or group of persons of another color or ethnic origin, and also the provision of any assistance to racist activities, including the financing thereof. States shall declare illegal and prohibit organization and also organize and all other propaganda activities which promote and incite racial discrimination, and shall recognize participation in such organizations or activities as an offense punishable by law. And states shall not permit public authorities or public institutions, national or local, to promote or incite racial discrimination. So, rights protected under ICERD. The right to equal and treatment before the tribunals and all other organs. The right to security of person and protection by the state against violence or bodily harm, whether inflicted by the government officials or by any individual group or institution. Political rights, in particular the right to participate in elections, to vote, and to stand or for election on the basis of universal and equal suffrage, to take part in the government as well as in the conduct of public affairs at any level, and to have equal access to public service. Other civil rights, in particular the right to freedom of movement and residence within the border of the state, the right to leave any country including one's own and to return to one's country, the right to nationality, the right to marriage and choice of spouse, the right to own property alone as well as association with others, the right to inherit, the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, the right to freedom of opinion and expression, and the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. Economic, social, and cultural rights, in particular the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, to protection against unemployment, to equal pay for equal work, to just and favorable remuneration. The right to form and join trade unions, the right to to housing, the right to public health, medical care, social security, and social services, the right to education and training, and the right to equal participation in cultural activities. The right of access to any place or service intended for use by the general public, such as transport, hotels, restaurants, theaters, and parks. So, who monitors the implementation of the ICERD by the state parties? The Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination is mandated to monitor the implementation of the convention. The CERD also has a mechanism to receive urgent warnings of a risk of racial discrimination and procedure to intervene to prevent or stop the racial discrimination. So, next.